Yellow blue summertime, watching as our worries grow away. Feels like everything's going our way. Feels like everything's going our way. It doesn't get much better than this. There's more I'd rather be. Gone are those dark clouds, I sold them out to sea. These are the days when the sun comes down. Meet me underneath my kaleidoscope song. Kaleidoscope sound.
I want to welcome all of you who are here in our chambers as well as online to our council chambers. Tonight, we have a Public Housing Authority Commission meeting, PHAC, as well as a regular study session. If you were here for the recognitions, those will be at the beginning of our study session. So at this time, I'd like to call to order our Public Housing Authority Commission meeting, and clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Harkey.
Here.
Commissioner Lopez.
Here.
Commissioner Dearman is absent. Excused. Commissioner Stewart.
Here.
Commissioner McClymans.
Here.
Commissioner Wong.
Here.
Commissioner Rowe.
Here.
Commissioner Orlando.
Yes.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, City Clerk. Do we have any unscheduled public appearances for our Public Housing Authority meeting? All right, seeing none. Council, we have 5 items on our agenda. What was that? The days tonight was also a correction for item number 2. So unless there are some questions, a motion would be in order, also acknowledging the amended item number 2 as part of your motion. May I have a motion, please?
Mayor,
I said council, sorry,
if I may, it's actually items 2 and 3. So.
2 and 3.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. All right, commissioners, what is your pleasure? Commissioner, Vice Commissioner.
Thank you, Chairman. I move for the approval of the Public Housing Authority Commission meeting for Monday, June 8th, items 1 through 5 with the amendments to items number 2 and 3.
Okay.
Seconded.
Second by Commissioner Wong. Council or Commissioner, any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, please poll the commission.
Sorry, Chairman.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Chairman. No, I just wanted to make sure the public understands that these are really two really good programs at our Head Start facility at our areas. It's been a long time funding, and all we're doing is authorizing a 2 more year lease so that the Head Start programs could be continuing those two areas, the one on Palm Lane as well as the one on Hamilton Street. So this is really good stuff here tonight, plus doing some rehab on some irrigation systems. Thank you, Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Orlando. Commission, our clerk, please poll the commission.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Commissioner McClymans,
Here, yes.
Commissioner Wong,
Yes.
Commissioner Rowe,
Yes.
Commissioner Orlando,
Yes.
and Chairman Harkey,
Yes,
unanimously.
thank you. Commissioner, that concludes our PHAC meeting. Now I want to welcome you to the Chandler City Council regular study session. And again, clerk, please call us to order.
Mayor Harkey,
Here.
Vice Mayor Lopez,
Here.
Councilmember Stewart,
Here.
Councilmember McClymans,
Here.
Councilmember Wong,
Here.
Councilmember Rowe,
Here.
Councilmember Orlando. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next on our agenda tonight is scheduled public appearances, and I would like to invite me out front. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, tonight we just have one service recognition and no retirement recognition. So with that, I would ask John Knudsen, our Public Works and Utilities Director, to come forward and make the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I'd like to ask Jose Flores to come forward to receive his 30-year service recognition. In 1988, Joe accepted a position as a fuel attendant at the Chandler Municipal Airport while he was still attending Chandler High School. In 1990, Joe was promoted to the Meter Services Division as a meter reader. He was once again promoted in 2018 to a utility meter technician. During his time with the city, Joe has seen many changes, from walking house to house, visually reading meters and carrying printed service work orders, to reading meters while driving by via radio communication and using work order systems that communicate data real-time to staff. In this way, Joe has been a big part of the evolution of how the city better serves its citizens. Joe comes to work with a great attitude and is always willing to help his fellow co-workers. He enjoys what he does and takes great pride in the city that he lives and serves. Congratulations, Joe, on your 30 years of service with the city of Chandler. Hope you continue to be a valuable asset, and we look forward to your working with you for many more years. Thanks very much.
So next is, we have a proclamation for the U.S. Army's 245th birthday. I'd like to call up Sergeant First Class Christopher M. Kerber, who is the Chandler Recruiting Station Commander, to receive the proclamation. And I'd like to, Vice Mayor, I think you would love to read this.
My pleasure. So proclamation. Whereas on June 14th, 1775, the second Constitution, oh gosh, I'm going to need glasses myself. The Second Continental Congress, representing the citizens of 13 American colonies, authorized the establishment of the Continental Army. And whereas the collective expression of the pursuit of personal freedom that caused the authorization and organization of the United States Army led to the adoption of the Declaration of Independence and the codification of the new nation's basic principles and values in the Constitution. And whereas for the past 245 years, the U.S. Army's central mission has been to fight and win the nation's wars, and whereas the motto of duty, honor, country is the creed by which the American soldier lives and serves. And whereas no matter what the cause, location, or magnitude of future conflicts, the nation can rely on the U.S. Army to produce well-trained, well-led, and highly motivated soldiers to carry out the missions entrusted to them. And whereas the components of the U.S. Army, to include the Arizona Air National Guard, Army National Guard, and the U.S. Army Reserves and the regular Army have contributed to COVID-19 response. And whereas members of the Chandler have had proudly served and made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation's freedom while serving the United States Army and other branches of our nation's military. And therefore, the mayor of City of Chandler of Arizona does hereby declare June 14th, 2020 as United States Army 245th birthday.
Take some pictures, and I think you have some comments. Sir.
All right, thank you, distinguished guest, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for having us tonight. I just want to say it's a pleasure to serve in such a beautiful city. A lot of places I can serve, but none of them really hit the charts like Chandler does. So I really appreciate everything you do for the city, and I also appreciate all the first responders and what you guys do to keep it safe. So thank you very much for having us tonight. Thank you.
I knew that Vice Mayor would have wanted to read that because of his love and affection for all the other services that, even though he was not in the Army. So I think I'll probably hear from this a little bit later from him. I would like to invite Council, if you'd please join me up front here for our next proclamation. And I would also like to call up Sharon Younger and HRC members to receive this proclamation. Over the past weeks, voices from across our nation called for discussion, education, and action on topics of diversity and equality. And the City of Chandler created the Human Relations Commission in 1998 to serve as an advisory board to the City Council by recommending ways to encourage mutual respect and understanding amongst the many groups of people who live, work, and spend time within our community. I was honored to serve as chair for the first 4 years of this commission, and it has always held a special place in my heart for its initial assignment as well as its ongoing work. So Council and I have put together a special proclamation to celebrate our diverse population and reiterate our commitment to the HRC's mission. Whereas the City of Chandler and her residents and businesses benefit from a diverse community that is welcoming, understanding, and respectful of one another, whereas Chandler offers a business climate that attracts companies with global operations and talented people with diverse cultures, ethnicities, and backgrounds, whereas members of our community have peacefully marched in response to the tragic loss of life in other communities, that we will not tolerate racism or social injustice in Chandler. Whereas we must have the trust, respect, and support of the people who live and work in Chandler, and our first responders keep our community safe through the use of innovative practices, training, and tools that value the sanctity of every human life. Whereas the mission of the Chandler Human Relations Commission is elevating and celebrating the diverse population of Chandler through the ongoing engagement in multicultural education and inclusive efforts so that everyone is valued and has the opportunity to thrive. Therefore, it is hereby proclaimed that Chandler City Council supports this mission, as well as its related activities and initiatives by the city to listen and engage in meaningful conversations, resulting in solutions with businesses, community leaders, and residents. Now therefore, I, Kevin Hartke, Mayor of the City of Chandler, Arizona, on behalf of City Council, call upon the Human Relations Commission to advance our strategy policy goals by engaging with the community and making recommendations to the City Council that will benefit the quality of life, economic opportunity, and relationships with everybody within this community. I would like to hand this to President of our HRC. I think we have a picture. All right, make sure you can see us all. Thank you all for joining us and your ongoing work with us. Councilmember Orlando, I want to assure you I was not snubbing you. I just knew that the Vice Mayor particularly wanted to read that one, so.
I appreciate that, Mayor, and as you know, the Air Force was, the motherhood was the Army, so I'll accept that.
All right. Council, I know that I have asked for a brief presentation on item number 6. That was the only one called in. City Manager.
Yes, Mayor. Ryan Bosch is coming forward to make that presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thanks for the opportunity to come and tell you a little bit about what we're doing to provide temporary shelter for our residents that are experiencing homelessness during this time of COVID-19. As we've spoken about several times, you know that our residents experiencing homelessness, the ones that you see on the street, are experiencing chronic homelessness, meaning that they have been homeless for a long period of time or had many episodes of homelessness and are experiencing some sort of disabling condition. That comes with many ongoing medical conditions. Usually they're older in age and may have disabilities. So that makes them at increased likelihood of a serious illness or even death if they were to catch COVID. This is a little bit about how our homeless service delivery system across Maricopa County has been impacted by the onset of COVID-19. This is a bed inventory. And as you can see, on January 27th, our bed inventory across all of the different kinds of interventions we have, from emergency shelter to permanent supportive housing, was just over 11,000. Come April 1st, we had lost several thousand beds and we were down to, several hundred beds, and we were down to 9,800 beds. That was a result of having to reduce capacity in all of our facilities to implement physical distancing. Then came the CARES Act, and we got some money from the federal government and from the states. And that fourth column you see is the number of projected beds that we are implementing with temporary COVID-19 dollars across the county. So there's about 1,300 beds that have been brought online, but as I mentioned, they are temporary. They're temporarily funded. So you can see since January, we now have an increase of 137 beds, but 1,300 of those are temporary, and it remains to be seen whether or not we'll be able to go back to our capacity before COVID-19 or not. Here in Chandler, for just a quick point of reference, we have 25 emergency beds here in Chandler. We are now operating at 15 beds in order to physically distance. We would like to bring that back up to full capacity, but that means we have to find bigger spaces. It also means that we have to find a way to test every new person that comes into shelter, which is another thing that we're working on. The impact on homelessness, it's very early still, and it's hard. This is a complex piece of data to collect, but as you know, in January, we did our point-in-time count, and we counted 75 persons experiencing homelessness. Right when COVID hit, we started getting out in the streets and educating our population about what the disease was, how it might impact people, getting out masks, things like that. And very quickly, within 30 days, we were able to identify 104 persons right here in Chandler. So we know anecdotally that it is increasing. Currently, we have about 92 people enrolled in our homeless navigation services. And I've started to see many studies coming out that they all are sort of anticipating that we're going to have between a 40 to 45% increase in homelessness due to COVID. So that is probably folks that have lost employment, and once this eviction moratorium ends, they're going to be unable to catch up with their rent. So we are anticipating and planning for that. As you know, that we've discussed many times what we're doing here in Chandler with our COVID dollars, the money that we got from Community Development Block Grant coronavirus specific dollars. We are putting those towards rent and utility assistance, food assistance, client services, navigation services, and temporary shelter beds, which is what we're talking about today. So the first way that we've implemented that is to have a partnership with Maricopa County, and that is the agreement that you'll see before you on Thursday. We have partnered, the county has leased a hotel in Mesa. They've leased 25 beds from the owner. Mesa, Tempe, and us are using those beds. We sort of divvy them up based on our homeless population. So us having the least number of persons experiencing homelessness, we are occupying 6 of those beds. Mesa's using 12 and Tempe 7. Our partner, Community Bridges, who does provide some of our navigation services, is on site there every single day. They are providing the on-site case management, and they are delivering 3 meals a day. That there is JD, if any of you have ever met him in that picture, actually delivering meals provided by some of our nonprofit providers, free of cost to us, door to door. We will do this through pretty much the end of July. And to date, just since April 27th, we have housed 13 Chandler residents there. 7 have already exited to housing. 3 of those were veterans who moved on to permanent housing, and then we have refilled those units. The other way that we're doing this is through some of those CDBG CV dollars that came through. We are identifying our persons who are most vulnerable, and we are also providing beds right here in Chandler at local hotels. Our navigator, Misty, provides those services. Since March 1st, we've housed 14 persons here in Chandler. We've had 10 exits. 3 we were able to divert back to family in other states. 4 have gone on to permanent housing, and 1 is in long-term residential treatment services, and the rest are actually still staying at the hotel. Or actually, we're utilizing several hotels. Oh, well, I just did that quick. Do you guys have any questions?
Sure. I really brought this forward because sometimes our homeless men and women on the streets are unseen, but at the other time seen by everybody. And it's my commitment to homelessness and both sharing the continuum of care in the county for years, as well as engaging in iHelp, is I'm just pleased for this announcement, an opportunity to continue to house. I appreciate, want to give a shout out and thank you to the county for extending these funds to be used in this fashion, and that will help us and in the other cities in the East Valley. So thank you. Council, any comments or questions related to this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Councilmember Orlando.
Thank you. Thank you for the project. Thank you for bringing us forward, Mayor, as well. Appreciate it. So what are the thoughts about transitioning to a more permanent solution in this type of model? Obviously, you're moving people in, getting them help, and moving them out, which is probably a lot easier than what we're doing today. Going homeless, coming in, going back out again, this is more of a controlled environment. Are we looking at something more permanent?
I think that that is happening around the county. Cities around us are definitely looking at the possibility of purchasing hotels, looking at affordable housing options, things like that. There are movements across the country. There's one, for instance, in Alameda County called Project Roomkey that is doing things like this. Our ultimate goal every time we put somebody into, whether it's a hotel room or an emergency shelter, is not to, for them not to return to homelessness.
Yeah, let me rephrase that question. I
Okay.
apologize. Is this a permanent solution to be able to move people in? Not permanently, I'm sorry, I probably rephrased that question. I like this model of having an area where we could put the homeless in, have a shelter, and then work with them to move on. Is this something we're looking at as a long-term solution? Is that a better way of putting it, where they could move them in and then get them services to get them out, move them on?
Through the mayor, Councilman Orlando, thanks for clarifying. It's certainly something we could be looking at. That would be up to your direction.
Well, I'm just working, I mean, are there other cities collaborating with us to be able to do this? That's what I'm asking.
We do have an East Valley City Managers partnership going on, and that's certainly something that I think the group would like to look at.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
Okay. And obviously, I appreciate the collaboration that we also have with other cities, and I know this is sometimes difficult to find those extended dollars as opposed, I know these are temporary, but we'll continue to work and see what we can do. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Council, any other, I know none were called in, but is there anything else on our agenda that you'd like to address? All right, seeing none, on Thursday, we have several items beyond the consent agenda with some other hearings, and we'll look forward to seeing you all on Thursday. This concludes our study session.